Hello and welcome back to the Cosmic Acad, and in this video we are going to learn loop statement in Go. So now let's talk about loops in Go. To make it easy to understand, let's stay in the kitchen where you want to do repetitive tasks all the time. Loops in the programming works the same way. They are used to repeat actions until a certain condition is met. So what is loop? A loop is like saying do this thing over and over again until you are done. It's the perfect way to handle tasks that are repetitive. Imagine this, you have a basket of oranges and you want to peel each orange one by one until the basket is empty. Instead of peeling them manually and keeping track of how many are left over there, you can just say keep peeling an orange until there are none left in the basket, right? So this is exactly what a loop does in programming. It will perform a specific task over and over again until the task is done, right? Until the condition is met. So how loop work in Go, we'll see that now. So for that, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use loop. And how can we do that? Golang says for that you need to use for. All right, and then you need to define a variable. Let's say this time I'm going to define a variable that is going to be nothing but every time a loop complete, that variable will get updated. And how can we do that? That we will see as well. So I'm going to say okay, start loop with, let's say, 1. All right, and then perform this repetitive action until the value is 5, right? And then every time this loop runs, once the loop runs completely fine, just increment this value. So I'll say just increment this value by 1, right? So now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to print something. I will say not greater than dot. So here I'm just going to say okay, just I'll say okay, just print something here. So I'll say looping over task, and then I'm going to print I. So for that we need this fmt package to be imported here, and I'm going to say okay, import this fmt package, then only we can use this println and fmt as well. So I'll just say save, not capital P. All right, let me just save this, and then I will just run this here. So we can see here looping over task 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on. That means once this condition is met, this loop will get terminated. That functionality or repetitive task won't happen more, right? So that is what loop is. That means we are going to iterate through each of the code block that is present over there, and then it will go on and on until the condition is met. And of course we need to define the condition over here, right? And for each iteration we are going to update the loop as well, like you have run this time, this much of time. So now you need to check for the condition. If the condition is met, you need to terminate yourself, otherwise this will go and in an endless loop and the program will stuck over there, right? This is how we can use looping statement in Go, right? And then let's come back to kitchen example, and we will see how we can exactly apply this concept there. So we know that there should be a condition statement, or there should be a condition where this loop must be terminated to avoid the scenario of endless loop, right? It will keep running. So let me just remove it from here. This is one way of defining loop in Golang, and then I'll just remove it, not remove, I'll just comment it over. If you want to see that, you can see that. And then in kitchen I will say okay, we have, let's say we bought batter from somewhere, from the shop, and then I'll say batter, and then we bought batter of 500 ml, let's say, so 500 I'll say, and then I'm going to make pancake using this batter, right? But then this pancake, we can create as many, we can bake as many as pancake until this batter is empty. We don't have more batter left in the kitchen, right? So for that I'm going to say okay, let's use for loop, but this time we are going to use different kind of for loop. We are not going to define a variable over there. We are just going to say, okay, just put a condition, and then if that is true, that means the repetitive action will be executed, and if that is not true, then you need to terminate this loop. So how can I say that? For that I will say, okay, I'll say this batter is less than, not less than, this batter is greater than 0. That means until the batter is, until some batter is left there, keep baking the pancake, right? So I'll say fmt.println, and I will just print over here, keep baking pancake, right? And this p is going to be capital, and here I will put couple of more console so that we can see what is happening over there. So I'll say copy it from here and paste it here, and here I will say start baking pancake. Alright, now once this for loop is complete, that means you have successfully baked all those pancakes, and then next it will execute next line of code, or it will perform next line of functionalities. So here I will say pancake has been baked successfully. So I'll say pancake has been baked or prepared successfully, right? Let me just save it and run this code, and we'll see if that works. For that I'm going to clear this console, and not clear, it should be actually clear, and I will just run this code. You can see it is going in an infinite loop. Why? Because that condition is not getting false, and we need to manually terminate this loop until, otherwise it will go in endless loop. Of course it was going in endless loop, and then at certain point of time your program will hang or your system will hang. So we say that, okay, let's see that. We say that, okay, if batter is greater than 0, of course batter is greater than 0, and each time batter is greater than 0. So we need to update this batter, so that after each baking process, right, we need to update this batter so that this batter count will, batter quantity will actually get reduced, right? And that is how exactly it should be. So each time we bake a pancake, the batter quantity, let's say batter quantity is going to be reduced by, for making a single pancake, the batter quantity we are going to use as, let's say, 100 ml, or you can say 50 ml. So I'll say let's reduce this batter by 50. So I can say, okay, this time batter minus equals to 50. That means this batter will be now 500 minus 50, that means 450. And each time this batter will get reduced by 50. That means for each pancake we are going to use 50 ml of batter, and then pancake will be baked successfully. Let me just save it and clear this console once more. I will just run this code and see if that works. Now we can see we have 10 console over there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you can count, not 10, but it will exactly based on this 50. Not 50, but this 500. Every time we bought quantity as 500 ml, and then every time we are using 50, then this should 10 should be there. That means we should be able to make 10 quantity of pancake, right? And then once that is done, it is pancake baked successfully, right? Now if you want to use more batter to bake a single pancake, you can put here, let's say 100 ml you are using to create a single pancake, and this time the pancake size is going to be big. So let's see how many times this for loop will execute. So for loop will of course execute based on the count of this batter. This time you can see we have only 5 over there. That means each time we are using 100, that means 500 by 100, 5 times, right? This for loop will do it works 5 times. So that is what exactly loop is, and that is how loop works, right? We saw 2 different tests of for loop. One is Like this, we need to define a variable and then we need to say, okay, it will run up to this condition, correct? And then we are, of course, incrementing those variable by 1 or whatever value you want. Instead of this I plus plus, you can increment it by 10 to 20, 30 or 25, any number you want, but that number should be actually integer value. It should not be a decimal value. All right, so that is exactly what the for loop is. That means we are going to perform certain specific task over and over again until that task is done, right? So thank you guys for this video. We'll meet in the next video. For meanwhile, you can just put subscribe and press the bell icon.